have introduction on survey method today. Before we directly touch upon this method, we'll start with the introduction. Introduction about research and what is contained in research and what are the methods of research. And after that, we will specifically deal with survey. So, you know search. Then, what is search and what is researching? Begin over there. So, the beginning of research, researching can be traced back to prehistoric times. So, in history, we know prehistory. Prehistory means the stage when there was no written record. Everything was passed down from oral tradition. So there was no written record. The stage of history where there was no written record, it was prehistory. And what we talk about research, it was already there during prehistoric times. Because men search for truth and facts. And during that time, and we know about Stone Age, Old Stone Age, New Stone Age, Meter Age, Iron Age and all. So human development came up. And how that human development came up? That human development came up as a result of search for truth, as a result of search for facts. So along with that, research was going on. And due to that, is what we call research. It started when men began the capacity to think. The capacity to think guide him to search, to research, and to search again and again. For example, we know one of the oldest civilizations in the world was Egyptian civilization. And this Egyptian civilization, it was recognized even in the Bible. In the first book of the Bible, in Genesis. So, in Egypt, because of the 5-time Nile Valley, Egypt was flourishing at that time. Then, people of Egypt, they faced the menace of the flood of this Nile River every year. Then, after experiencing that, how to tame and how to control, how to adjust themselves with this flooding Nile river. They began searching for facts, searching for things, and that led to development of calendar, that led to development of geometry, and that led to development of surveying work. So the Greeks began to adopt that because they knew that every year, because of the flooding of Nile River, they faced problem. Then how to cope with that problem? They began searching for facts, searching for truth, and as a result of that, with all those ideas and techniques, with the research they did, they could cope up with that problem. And other than the Greeks, other than the Egyptians, the Greeks were the one who also did a lot of research. Like most of the streams of learning in different fields, we can say that it started with the Greeks. Starting from Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, then Cynics, Sophists and all. They had different schools of thought in the Greek. So the Greeks, in almost in every streams of learning, here were the contribution of Greeks, particularly Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. Due to that, the Greek also played a great role For example, in the field of medicine, astronomy, in law, in different branches of social science, and in other learning also. They played a lot of role, the great civilization. And when we come to modern time, in modern time, educational research or research as we speak now in the strict sense of the term, begin to start with United Kingdom and United States. Because whatever they do and whatever they practice, other countries will copy it from them. For example, India was a former colony of British Empire. Because of that, educational system, whatever we adopt, whatever we follow, it is same as the practice of United Kingdom. And in United States, it is a bit different. Whatever be the case, research in modern time, strictly speaking, began to be developed from these two countries. For example, when National Education Policy 2020 was in the making, so a lot of seminars, a lot of symposium, a lot of workshops were organized. Then in 2021, I went to United States on Fulbright program. And when I experienced the educational system here in United States, I came to know that the so-called National Education Policy 2020 is diverting educational system in India from British pattern to United States pattern. It is exactly after I experienced the system of working of university over there, I came to know that Indian educational system is moving and diverting from United Kingdom pattern to United States. And in United States, for example, this university education, those who are not really trying for further study, they usually don't go to university. In college level, they did project somewhere and they got employment somewhere in the midst. And only those who are really trying, they are reaching university. But it is the opposite in India. Everyone try to go university, and from university, they begin their career. That is just the opposite. That's why, even now, I doubt sometimes this national education policy is very good, but we may not be able to follow 10% what the United States did. In this way, will there be loophole somewhere? That is my greatest fear. And that has been experienced in the functioning also. So, whatever it is, what is research? Research means a systematic search for facts. A systematic search for something which is relevant. That is research. Then, to cut short, I will briefly deal with three types of research. Three types of methods in research. Arbitrary research, unscientific research, and scientific research. Then after that, we will go to study method. What is arbitrary method of research? Arbitrary method of seeking answer to question consists of using imagination, using opinion without proof, using blind faith, and using vague intuition. So, if any opinion is made on the basis of this imagination, self-opinion, blind faith, and vague impression, the finding or the truth which come out of this, it is arbitrary. Then what is arbitrary method? For example, earlier, it is believed that the shape of the earth is flat. And Copernicus, a prominent astronomer, who for the first time found out that the earth is round, he was punished, isn't it? So the king at that time could not accept. And they were led by that arbitrary. Then another arbitrary method. So in some community or in some tribe, they have the belief that a big snake can swallow the moon when there is lunar eclipse, isn't it? When there is lunar eclipse, some people they say that the moon is evolved by big snake. Then quite recently, one arbitrary method was published in Times of India on 3rd March 2020. Because of that, I keep it with again. One BJP MLA from Assam, known as Harit Priya, he said that cow dung and cow urine may be good for curing coronavirus. And that was circulated in the news. Even quite recently, it was published in Times of India on 3rd March 2020. Then, other than this, I do not recall it here. The previous Chief Minister of Tripura, he once said, and what he said was telecasted in the Northeast News. In Ramayana and Mahabharata, in the peak age, they use aeroplane.
Science conference.
Yeah.
Yes.
In such a way, from everywhere, from time to time, even now, we keep on hearing and listening arbitrary. Then, unscientific method. Unscientific method means method which is not based on facts, or method which cannot be verified. This unscientific method, it may be a bit reasonable than arbitrary method, but they are not based on facts. For example, even now, allegation made by some politicians and some political parties. I don't mean all politicians and all political parties. Sometimes for criticizing and alleging others, this arbitrary method has been used many a time in political circles. But some politicians and some political parties, they presented their argument with facts and figures. When anything is presented with facts and figures, it cannot be opposed. But many a times, arbitrary method or so to say unscientific method is been used. Then what is this scientific method? Scientific method is based on verifiable evidence and facts. And this scientific method, it is objective. It is precise and factual. And this scientific method usually has no side. It is objective. Then it is not partial. In literal language, it is it has unbiased nature or objectivity. That is scientific method. And when we talk about science, sciences are broadly divided into two: physical sciences and social sciences. Physical sciences deal with facts which can be proved in scientific laboratory. And social sciences deal with human society. And the laboratory is human society. So it cannot be accurately tested like that of the physical sciences. And social science includes various disciplines which deal with human life, human behavior, social group, and social institution. And as we know, the method which is used in research, it is research methodology, and there are various methods like historical, analytical, quantitative, descriptive, survey, case study, statistical, experimental, content, exploratory, and there are many others also. But as I've said, we will focus on survey. Okay. Background and meaning of survey and survey method. So the word survey has been derived from the word sul or sul, which means over, and the word vir or dioi, which means sea. And in its literal meaning, survey means to look over something from high place. So to look over something from high place. And in this term, survey or social survey, any phenomenon or anything is studied with overlooking and with the technique of survey. So in survey method, the whole is studied. But how the whole, not the part, the whole is studied. But how that whole is studied, that will come to it. So survey method means looking something in whole. But in studying that the whole part, some technique is used. So some technique or some method is used in studying that whole part. And this survey method in the modern world began after Industrial Revolution and urbanization in Europe. We know what is Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution took place in Europe, and as a result of Industrial Revolution, many people from rural area in search of job and opportunities, they migrated to urban area. And that led to increase in urban population. Then even in some towns and cities, it developed to emergence of slum areas because of those people who migrated from rural area. And among the social scientists, the prominent social scientists who first utilized this method, survey method, was Karl Marx, the author of Das Kapital and Communist Manifesto. So how did Karl Marx utilize it? Karl Marx, by conducting survey, he got information from informants. That means those exploited industrial workers. From those exploited industrial workers, he collected some information. And that information which he collected from those exploited industrial workers, he developed it into a specific theory which came to be known as class society and class struggle, which led to emergence of communism and communist manifesto. Because of that, in building up this communism, the idea of communism and communist manifesto, Karl Marx utilized this survey method. And in surveys research, the whole population is covered. But it does not collect information from every individual in the population. In this regard, we have to know the difference between census and survey. For example, when information is collected from each and every individual of the population without missing anyone, that is census. For example, census is taken by government in every 10 years. That is census. But in survey, for example, the whole population is studied, but information is not collected from each and every information is collected only from selected field. That is survey. For example, now, how many of you are here? 31. Yeah. For example, if I want to collect some information from 31 of you sitting here, and if I ask you personally to each of you and collect all the information from each of you, that is census. But out of 31, if I get randomly selected, if I get information from 7 persons among the 31, and that 7 persons who are regarded as representing these 31, in that case, that is sample, that is survey. So that is the difference between survey and census. So in survey, only part of the population, only from part of the population, information is derived. But in census, information is collected from all the population. And when information is collected only from part of the population, the method which is used is called sample. Now, types of social surveys. What are the types of social surveys that will come to it? First, general or specific surveys. So when survey is conducted for collecting general information from the whole population, that is general survey. For example, any information collected from institution or phenomenon which cover the whole, that is general survey. For example, in Mizoram University, there are many schools. Out of these many schools, School of Social Science is one. And if information is to be collected from all the 6 departments of School of Social Sciences, then that is general. Because no department is missed. That is general survey. But when information is specifically collected only from a particular branch or group, that is specific survey. Like, instead of collecting information from all the departments in the whole social sciences, if information is collected only from public administration department, that is specific. So that is the example of general and specific survey. Then regular and ad hoc survey. Some surveys are regular in nature. And these surveys which are conducted regularly, in such type of survey, as it is permanent, some methods are stably used for collecting information. That means the survey which are done and which are conducted regularly from time to time. That means it is almost done after every 1 year or after every 2 years. It is regular, then it is more or less permanent. Like this type of survey, it is mainly done in economic survey. Economic survey like to take it into micro, study of family budget, to take into macro, rural credit survey of the Reserve Bank. It has been done from time to time. And it will be regularly performed also. It is regularly done. Because of that, such time it is regular survey. But some they are not done regularly, very ad hoc or very temporary. That means that survey may be taken once, but it may not be repeated. For example, some of these survey, sometimes it is taken in phases, first phase or second phase. So those surveys which are done on ad hoc basis or temporary basis, they are called ad hoc survey. For example, when some construction work is to be done, then to do that construction work, land is to be acquired. And to acquire that land, first survey team will be sent. Then after survey team is sent, then high committee will be constituted to study that report. Then the matter will be finalized. Because why I give this as example? Like when BRTF, Border Roads Organization, has been entrusted to construct road from Boulder Road from Kingsai in Nathel district, Kingsai to Guangpui, then it will come down through Chimtui River in Sai Sea. Then it will go up to Bangkok, then Sarap. Then it will connect. And this will be the Boulder Road that will be used for defense and socio-economic purpose also. And when that land is to be acquired, Revenue Department of Government of Mizoram, they appointed SIRD, State Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, to do survey work in the area by focus group discussion with those village council, village people, and after that, SIRD, they submitted their report to land revenue. Then after that, land revenue, they constitute one high-level research committee to study on that report and to give final proposal. And I was appointed as chairman of that committee. Then we look into the report of that SIRD, and we heard from the grievances of the village council of those affected areas. Then after that, we make recommendation. And there were two contradictory views. The contradictory view was that BRTF was interested in constructing road by destructing the village reserve forest of Bangkok, which the village people did allow. Then after that, we take all those things into account and give recommendation that as per the survey of the SIRD and opinion of the villages, construction work should not be done at the expense of destroying environment. So the road should not pass through these village reserve. Let the other alignment be searched and be constructed through that. In such a way, in this case also, survey has been utilized, but it is ad hoc survey, not permanent. Once that is finished, then that survey work will not be constituted again. So this type is ad hoc survey work. Preliminary and final survey. What is preliminary survey? Preliminary survey means if some work is to be done, then in the initial stage, pilot study should be done. What is the purpose of this study? Then, from what it is to be done, this is properly to be planned in the preliminary stage. So this preliminary stage where the things which are to be done, the steps which are to be taken, and what are to be done. This planning is done, it is not a pilot study. If this pilot study is not properly made, then the final survey will never be authentic. In order that authentic report will be there, in order that authentic finding will be there, the preliminary findings should be good. That means the pilot study should be good. The pilot study should be as authentic as it should be, so that by using that authentic pilot study, authentic finding and conclusion can be derived. Due to that, authenticity of the final survey depends upon the preparation of the preliminary report. That is the pilot study. For example, you are all research scholars. Then how you prepare your research project. On the basis of that, how will you proceed in your research, that will be decided. If your proposal is good enough, then your pursuance of the research work will be smooth. But if you are not clear from the proposal stage itself, you will face problem after. Because of that, when some of you, if you are in your initial stage of preparing proposal, you should be hyper careful to consider as wide as possible, so that you may not face problem in future. Because of that, if your proposal or pilot study is good, your research will be smooth, your finding will be right. But if your proposal is not up to the mark, you face problem one after another. Okay. The last, census and sample survey. What is census survey and what is sample survey? We briefly touched already what is census. Census means when information is collected from each individual in the whole population without missing anyone. That is census. Hello. Yeah. Methodology was for lecture. So census survey means a survey where information is taken from each individual in the whole population. So good example is census which is taken by the government in every area. Then sample survey means a survey which is collected only from part of the whole. For example, one valid example, if smoking habits of students in one city, let's say Kanpur, is to be studied from several thousand students, maybe say 10,000 students. If the habits of smoking of 10,000 students of Kanpur are to be studied, instead of collecting information from each of every 10,000 students, sample can be collected just from 500 randomly. So such type of collection, that is sample survey. So that is the difference between census survey and sample survey. Okay, we'll move to the next point. Planning and stages of social survey. One scholar who deal with the social survey, Parton, expressed the view that designing, organizing, and conducting a survey is like establishing a business enterprise. He compared it to business enterprise. So Designing, organizing, and conducting a survey is just like establishing business enterprise. Why? Because both these survey technique and business technique, they require technical knowledge. They require technical skill. And they require administrative ability also. And over and above that, experience is also required. And over and above that, training is also required. Because of that, he compared his preparing survey work with establishing business enterprise. Both require skill, both require administrative talent, and both require good experience. So, what Barton wants to point out is that good planning is required. Good planning is a must for successful completion of research in society. Not only in social science, even in physical science also. Without good planning, research will never be completed. But when research is not planned properly, it may only lead to failure. Because of that, if you want to do successful research, you should have good planning. So, in the first year, what will you do? In the second year, what will you do? In the third year, what will you do? So, systematically, as we know, as we mentioned in the initial stage of the lecture, that research means systematic search of truths, systematic search of the facts. If you don't do systematically and mix up everything, at last you will end up in trouble. Because of that, in order to avoid all those unwanted things, unwanted development, good planning is required. Whether you are following good planning or not, you may know it, isn't it? And in survey method, researcher usually follows deductive method. Deductive method means what? Out of many available facts, you have to choose those facts, then use only the relevant facts. That means from many, you have to minus and use only the relevant, isn't it? That means deduction or minus. That is deductive method. But it is not inductive method. Inductive method means particular to general, from few to many. But this deductive is from many to few. So in survey method, usually deductive method. Out of the many available sources, you have to use shortly only which are relevant and which are verifiable and which are valid. For example, if you studied about coronavirus and if you got what BJP MLA from Assam expressed it in the Times of India, so it will be flatly rejected, isn't it? Because of that, all those unwanted things should be discarded. That is deductive. So, if survey is used, if survey is utilized, elaborate steps are required to be taken up to make it more applicable, to make it more scientific and systematic. And among the researchers, among the social scientists also, there is no unanimity with regard to definition of the meaning of social research. So there is no commonly accepted definition of social research. But the thing which is relevant to you, that is the base. So there is no commonly accepted definition of social survey among the researcher and social scientists also. But there are certain steps. So these they presented into 3 stages for conducting this survey. So these 3 stages of conducting survey for convenience sake shall be presented here. So, I think you can have a look at it. The first one is the first stage. So these are the stages of survey research. The first step is design and planning phase. Design and planning phase means it is the first stage where you have to do your planning properly. What should be done? And what are the steps to be followed? So, to do your research effectively, first you have to raise your hypothesis or research questions. In some department, it is used as hypothesis, but in some department, it is used as research question. Whatever it is, what do you have to search? Isn't it? What are you going to search in your research? What facts, what variable facts are you going to search? So, hypothesis or research question, that should be the first stage. Then after that, for finding out the answer to these questions, what type of survey, what methodology are you going to apply, and what type of survey will you employ? That you have to decide it again carefully. Then, if you used to collect the materials, then how you will draw the sample. For example, if you have to apply the survey method. For example, you have to draw your sample and collect material from how many thousands and how many hundred. Then out of that, what will be the sample? Out of that, because the whole population cannot be covered in survey research. Because of that, you have to choose. Out of that, how many you have to choose. Then after that, data gathering techniques. Data gathering technique means that should be distributed to the sample. You have to collect information. Then, after collecting from them, then you have to construct. So, and you should also make pilot study properly. And like, you may not be able to do everything by yourself. You may need to employ someone also. But those people whom you have to employ, you should train them properly. Because even without informing them properly what they have to do, if they are not trained, how will they collect information? So proper training is required. For example, you may employ some volunteers. Those volunteers whom you have to employ, you should give them proper training. Then you have to finalize the survey. So this is the planning stage. The planning stage. So how many samples we have to collect? Then in case if you want to distribute questionnaire also, will it be limited questionnaire or unlimited questionnaire, that you have to consider it. Then you have to prepare the pilot study properly. Then train those volunteers whom you have to use. You have to utilize. So proper training is required. So this is the planning stage. Then the second stage is data collection phase. So in data collection phase, you may go by yourself or you may employ some volunteers. Whatever be the case, first you have to identify the respondents. The person from whom information should be collected. They should be identified out. And after they are identified out, they should be approached, either by you or your volunteers. Then, after that, whatever has been distributed to them, that sample should be collected. And the third will be data analysis and reporting. Whatever you collected from them, you have to analyze properly, so that there may be no lapse, so that there may be no shortcomings, no limitations. And you have to analyze it again and again and edit it, then tabulate it properly, and at last you will come with your analysis. That means your finding. So these are the 3 stages in survey research as suggested by some social scientists. And for example, the person, the respondents from whom informations are to be collected, they should be aware about the topic. They should be aware about the things we have to ask. Why? Because 1 year ago, some scholars of my department, with the help of others, they did survey among the displaced person from Burma. Then I told one of my scholars, you wanted to ask the relationship and the feeling of those people from the same ethnic tribes who come from Burma and Bangladesh, who are now displaced person in Mizoram, to higher secondary and college students. But if those students are not even aware of their history, how will they attempt this question? So the sample how you prepare, it is based on ungrounded facts. You should be careful from now onwards. Then the one who is involved in that, sorry sir, we should be careful in the next time. Because of that, whatever information is to be collected from any respondents, they should be aware of the thing which they will be replying. If not, the whole research process can be disturbed. And at last, the problem will be only with the researcher. Because of that, in every step of research, we should be careful so that such type of shortcomings may not take place. Okay, characteristic of social survey. Some of the chief characteristics of social survey may be analyzed as given. Number 1, the first characteristic, supply of information on any problem. Supply of information on any problem. According to Moser, the purpose of many surveys is simply to provide required information to someone. So, why survey is conducted? Survey is conducted to give information to someone who needs it. Because of that, survey is done to derive information, the required information which is needed by the researcher. And many a time, the researcher himself collected information. But in some area, there are specialized bodies that conduct such survey. For example, government department, like Economic and Statistic Department of Government of the state. They also did survey. But that is different from the survey conducted by the single researcher, because that is government property. And number two, description of a phenomenon. So, surveys are used and are done for detailed description of a phenomena or a situation. To know a situation or to know a phenomena, survey is being done, and survey is done, and survey should be done in future also. And survey helps the researcher to come into direct contact with the phenomena under study, the situation which is studied. And whatever information which is required in the study also, the researcher can collect it from this situation. And this survey, for example, only a small community can be studied, or big community also can be studied, or a small geographical area can be studied, or big geographical area also can be studied. It depends upon the one who is conducting. So in every level, survey can be done to describe and to know about the phenomena or to know about the situation. But the situation may be different. Difference on the basis of differences upon the situation, the survey work also may be different. In that, the researcher should know how to adjust himself or herself. Then explanation of a phenomenon. Explanation of a phenomenon. So, the purpose of survey is not only to know the phenomena, but also to explain the phenomena. That is the next step. That means, to explain the phenomena means to explain the relationship between a number of variables, a number of factors inside the same phenomena or the same situation. So, a survey may be general or specific, but whatever it is, whether it be general or specific, if it is authentic survey that helps in creating and that helps in creation of new concept, new idea, and new finding. If any survey does not come up with authentic finding or authentic idea, that means it may not be a successful survey. Okay, subject matter of social survey. Survey method is a very extensive study, and it cannot be cover 100% also. Up to which is possible, we try to touch it, but we may not be able to cover it. And this subject matter of survey method depends upon the nature of information which is gathered. What type of informations are gathered from the respondents? From that, the subject matter can be studied. So, Moser has identified 4 broad classes of subject matter. So, what are the 4 broad classes of subject matter of social survey? First, demographic characteristic. Demographic characteristic deals with the study of demography. This survey mainly deals with study of the working of family and social institutions. Information concerning family, household composition, marital status, fertility, age, or some related things concerning family and such things, they come under demographic characteristics. This is also one of the subject matter of survey method. Point number 2, social environments. In social environments, it covers all the social and economic factors. All the social and economic factors like occupation, income, housing conditions, and social amenities. And a number of social actions are influenced by the environment in which people live. So, you are living under which environment, and that environment usually influences your social behavior and your social action. And in order to know about the family relationship also, to study on some family relationship, one should know quite well about that family. Because of that, social environment is one of the important content of subject matter of social study. And social activities. These social activities may be termed as behavioral data, and it mainly deals with actions or behaviors of the respondents. That means, in order to conduct successful survey, the respondents should be properly studied and their characteristic and their status should be properly known. If not, they may not be approachable. Why? Because depending upon the psychology of a person, if you don't approach a person, you may not be able to get the right information. For example, when I did my UGC project on chieftainship, I had to interview one old man who was the youngest son of the former chief, and he was very arrogant. So people were really nervous to interview him. And just before I interviewed him, one of my colleagues, while I was serving in the college, he went there and he got angry and he returned with sad mood. Then after that I went. He was old man, so I have to study his psychology. Then the moment I entered his house, so I told him, Kapu, I have great respect for you, so for the first, I'll keep your photo with you. First, let's take photo together. Then I took photo with him together, and after that, so his feeling was cooling down. Then I started asking certain things which could be pleasing to him, and then he provided me tea. Then we started interaction, friendly interaction, and after that, I started asking him what I wanted. So if you don't know the social activities or psychology of the respondent, the person whom you have to approach, particularly in social sciences, you may not be able to collect the right information. Because of these social activities, it is very necessary. Due to that, whatever you have to derive, whatever you have to study, said you should be thankful. Then opinion and attitudes. Opinion and attitudes surveys are very common. That include attitude of the person towards any social, economic, political incident and situation. For example, survey may be undertaken to collect information on any aspect, which can include socio-economic aspect, socio-political aspect, socio-psychological aspect. So in all these, to get all these, you can get it only from the respondents, the person who you are talking. Due to that, you should be careful. And sometimes open interview is conducted. For example, if you are dealing with some situation where you want to get information from some prominent person, in such case, open interview is preferred. But when you are collecting information from sample, maybe college student, maybe teachers, maybe scholars, you should keep in mind. For example, if you have to distribute questionnaire also, you should keep in mind that your questionnaire may not be boring. Your questionnaire may not be too long. Too long, many pages of questionnaire, nobody want to pay attention. Then you should not forget. This is very important. For example, some scholars from my own university approached me. Then we professors have a number of works. How can we pay attention in their many pages of questionnaire to waste time? We don't have time for that. Because of that, when you want to get facts and figures and information from your respondents also, in preparing questionnaire, to collect it from your respondents also, you should avoid unnecessary too many pages and too many questions. Because no one have time to spend on that. And from time to time, from email also, I got many questions. But if it is too long, I avoid it. And the same is with many others also. Because of that, you should know the psychology of the respondents, whatever type of persons they are, if you want to get your information. Okay, we'll move to the ending part, merits, and after the demerits, then we'll come to the concluding part. So what are the merits of survey method? The first positive point of this survey method is that the researcher can have direct contact with the people, with the respondents. And as the researcher has direct contact with the respondents, the researcher is not influenced by dogma, imagination, or theory. He is influenced by the facts he collected. That is the first merit point. And the second, this method permits greater objectivity. Because these data which he collected are not influenced by one man alone. He collected it from many persons, then he analyzed it. And over and above that, in this type of survey method, so sometimes many field workers are used. And as many field workers are used, they collected information from the individuals of the population, and due to that, there is no personal bias. Personal bias is avoided because of employing these many field workers. Then point number 3. This survey, particularly general survey, analyze and study many problems which cannot be done by mere theoretical analysis. Some good theory cannot solve problems, but through this general survey analysis, new idea can be done and new finding can come. Then through this survey method, the impact of social situation is understood. A researcher, by dealing directly and interacting directly with the respondents, he or she came to know the social situation. Because it is based on participant observation. Because of that, certain shortcomings can be avoided. And in social sciences, experimental method is not easily reliable, because any finding cannot be based on experiment in social science, like physical sciences. In physical science, like physics or chemistry, it can be proved in laboratory 10%, then after finding can be written. But in social sciences, as I've said, the laboratory is human society. It is so vast. It cannot be proved accurately like social sciences. In such case, as experimental method is cannot be used accurately in social sciences, survey method is solely better. Because of that, in social sciences, in order that a finding should be scientific, depending upon the situation, survey method is used. But not in every situation. I don't recommend for every situation in social sciences. Only in some situation, survey method is helping us to arrive at scientific conclusion. And though there are some merits, still there are some demerits or limitations. What are the limitations of these social survey or survey method? The first point is that in survey method, the first requirement is money. So this is the first problem. Then why? Because when informations are to be collected, sometimes researcher is required to recruit field workers. And field workers cannot be employed without payback. So the problem lies there in financial expense. And point number 2, survey is prolonged. Any survey may take many years. So if survey is to be done appropriately and to be done properly, it should be done slowly, steadily. But when some researchers do survey, they hurriedly collected information and hurriedly analyze it, and sometimes because of that hurriedly done, the findings are found. So these occur sometimes, not every time, but in certain instances, it is true. And point number 3. Survey method is very rigid, like the Constitution of the United States of America. It cannot be amended easily, USA Constitution. So, survey method is also rigid. Due to that, we'll come back to what we discussed earlier. If planning is not done properly, if planning is not done properly in the initial stage, it will automatically lead to complicated situation in case of bad planning. But if planning is done properly, there will be no problem, as I've said earlier. In case of bad planning, it will usually lead to complicated situation. Because of that, to avoid this demerit, proper planning is the solution in the initial stage. And the next point, the reliability of data collected from survey depends upon efficiency of the field workers. Not only the efficiency of the field worker, cooperation of the respondents, and adequacy and suitability of schedules, timing. But many a time, these are seldom fulfilled. These are not fulfilled for 100%. So this is one of the demerits of survey method. Because efficiency of field workers, cooperation of the respondents, then adequacy and suitability of timing, all those are required, but all these cannot be met 100% many a time. That is the other problem of this survey method. Then the next point, survey method cannot be used in historical study, because survey is used usually for the present situation, isn't it? For studying things of the past. For example, you know what is happening in Maharashtra these days because of the tomb of Aurangzeb. Then what is happening there in history cannot be solved by survey method now, isn't it? Because of that, for any historical study, survey method is not advisable. This is another demerit. Then, most of the surveys are conducted on sample-based sampling. Because of that, when data are collected from sampling, many a time there is sampling error. And the last point of demerits, survey method lays too much emphasis upon problems of immediate importance. What is immediately required? What is immediately important? Only that is focused. Because of that, it neglects comprehensive study of the society. Only from what sampling is done, only that is focused, but the rest is neglected. Due to that, only the sampling area, sampling study is given importance, and other network of the society is neglected. That is another demerit of survey method. Okay, we will come to the concluding remark. So survey method is one of the most widely used method in research in social sciences. Survey research or survey method covers a large population, but informations are not collected from every individual in the population in survey method. For that, statisticians have evolved the method of collecting information in survey, that is sample and sampling. That means a certain number of persons within the population are chosen, and from them information is collected, that is called sample. Sample of the population. So, when only part of the population is studied, it is called sample survey resource. And in this study of survey method, there are types of survey methods that we already discussed. Then there are also different stages of survey method, like designing and planning phase, data collection phase, and data analysis and report. Then there are three characteristics of survey method. Which are supply of information on any problem, description of a phenomenon, and explanation of a phenomenon. And survey method also touch upon some subject matters like demographic characteristic, social environment, social mobility, or pattern mobility. And as we know, in the process of the survey method, there are both advantages and disadvantages. What is the prominent disadvantage? The prominent disadvantage is that it cannot be applied in historical study. Then, what is the prominent advantage? Because researcher can have direct contact with the respondents. So there are many merits and demerits. And despite these demerits or limitation, this survey method can be appropriately used in the area where it is relevant for collecting relevant information. But it is not applicable and it is not relevant in all the research of social science. It may be applicable in certain aspects, but not in all the aspects. Okay, with this, we will conclude our introduction. And if you have anything to say, time will be given. If not, we will wind up. We will have introduction.